Hey, good morning everybody, and welcome to this beautiful day. Although it's definitely hot and muggy already here, so summer's here in full force. But everybody's been visiting, the squirrels and the chipmunks and the birds and the hummingbirds and the butterflies, and it's just been lovely. So lovely, and I'm glad you're here with me today. I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a shiatsu massage therapist and a relationship coach. I help women who are in narcissistic and toxic relationships, or I also help them when they're at the beginning of a relationship too, to get a good foundation. And I help them heal, I help them get the brain fog cleared, the energy back, make good choices, influence relationships in a positive direction rather than a negative direction. Absolutely, that's my specialty. I'm going to change this a little bit. Oh, much better. So that's what I do to help women out. So today's topic is on how children with narcissism need a lot of love. Now, one of the challenges when someone is raised by a narcissist is that as children, our brains aren't developed enough. And because they aren't developed enough, when something happens, we create a story around it. When, love of some sort was taken away from us. Ooh, let's try one more. There we go. When love was taken away from us and we didn't have anyone to help us process through what was happening and going on, it became a limiting belief. It became a belief about how the world works, about how life works, about our own value, about what's important. We developed a belief based on our child mind, based on the very limited amount of information that we had. Now, and that's a main way that trauma is developed. Trauma is something that's uncontrolled, that happens to you that you have no control over, that you're not able to process through, which is the key. And there was one more. Oh, unexpected. That's right. Unexpected. Boy, this whole sun thing is really off kilter today. It's the sun's fault. Let's try one more. Is that going to work? That'll work good enough. Okay. So a trauma is unexpected, you have no control, and there's no way to process through. And when you're raised by a narcissist, you don't have anybody there to help you process it through, generally, because it's a very dysfunctional situation. If there's a narcissist in the situation, it usually means that the adults around don't have good boundaries, that they're codependent, that they have their own mental health issues that they're dealing with, that there isn't a safe environment and wisdom to help process through. And so as an adult, we stay trapped in those child memories. We stay trapped in the beliefs that we developed as a child. So one of the things that I do is I take time regularly to talk to that part of me, to talk to the parts of me that didn't get the parenting that they needed, and to really start to develop a good relationship between that. Now, when something comes up, when you have an emotion, when you have underlying stress, when you have underlying conflict, when your stomach hurts, when your neck hurts, when your shoulder hurts, when your back hurts, when your immune system is acting up, when you can't think clearly. When any of those things happen, of depression or anxiety or rage even, it's telling you that there's a part of you that is stuck in an old belief. A belief that you probably developed to the best of your ability because you didn't have anybody or anything to give you different information. And that belief then looked around to find validation, and everywhere it looked, it validated itself, because that's how our subconscious works. I remember reading a paper a while back about a hypnotist who worked with many people who had suicidal thoughts. And they would go back, and the things that they discovered was that at some point this child wasn't wanted, whether it was in the womb or further on. And that belief of not being wanted, because it was one of the first beliefs that was developed, or things that they even heard through the womb, the discussion about how this child isn't wanted. Those things actually imprint on us like cassette tapes. So even if we don't understand what something says, or what somebody is saying, because we don't have language, it still imprints on us, that phrasing, that languaging, and that can become a belief. Now, the interesting thing is, once a belief is planted, when it's usually when a belief is new, when it's original, it's able to get past our conscious mind because it's novel. One of the best ways to change beliefs is to have a novel experience. And one of the best ways to help somebody else change beliefs is to give them novel experiences where they learn this new message, this different message. One of the things that I like to do is when I'm in conflict with narcissists, because they're everywhere. When the narcissist is in an open space, not in a gentle, loving space, but when they're in their conflicted space, that's when I introduce new thoughts, because that's actually when they are very open. And because that door's been opened, that emotion's been opened, and now you can access it. And even though they won't like what you say, even though they won't necessarily like the truth that you share, it's something that will play over and over and over and over and over in their mind after the reaction, in order for them to figure out what it means, because it's a new piece of information. They've been running off the old piece of information of that they're not good enough, or they'll never be able to figure it out, or staying in that place of fear. And when you introduce a new idea, the subconscious takes a hold of it and then tries to find ways to prove or validate this new idea. It's constantly looking around. Think of it as when someone's diagnosed with cancer, suddenly they see information about cancer everywhere. That's always been there. But now they're looking for it, now they're aware of it, it gets through their filters. It's the same thing for anyone who's been a child of a narcissist. Could be you, could be somebody that you know. They were introduced to an idea early on that was unexpected, that they didn't have any control over, and nobody helped them process through. For me, the reason that nobody helped process through is because many things were nonverbal. Many of the fears or issues were nonverbal for me. They were emotional. They were things that I could feel, things that were going on. Because of that, I didn't have words for it, and nobody could help me. I can't tell you how many times I was sick when I was in school, how many times a teacher would say something about me talking too much, and I'd burst out into tears. I was constantly crying. I was constantly, not feeling well, and had all sorts of issues. I was in the nurse's office all the time. I was in speech therapy. I had all sorts of stuff going on. And because I couldn't verbalize it about what was really happening to me, many adults couldn't understand that I was really struggling. And because they couldn't help me process through what was going on in my life. And then the few times I reached out, it was bad timing, and the other person, they didn't want anything to do with it. They couldn't listen to it, and the belief got reinforced that I don't matter, that I'm a failure, that I just have to let myself be controlled by everybody around me, whatever it may be. We kept looking for ways to validate it. So one of the neatest tricks to help start rewiring your brain is to receive new information in a novel way, or in a way when you're most open. And you are most open when you're being triggered by something. You're not it doesn't seem like you're most open because all of that emotion is in the way, but it really means is that a door is open. The conscious mind has left the building. You are now in fight or flight, which means now you can talk directly to that fight or flight, that whatever age ended up stuck in, where that fear, that belief ended up stuck. And it causes so much grief and so much conflict because it's not true. And it doesn't match what we want to be true, or what we know to be true. And so it creates all sorts of tension and anxiety, and it reminds us of all those problems again. So how do we work with this? How do we unwind this? How do we rewire it? Well, this is what I do. When I have a reaction to something, if it's a stomach ache, if it's a low level of anxiety, if it's anger, if it's frustration, I set aside that time that I always take, because remember, I make it a habit to set aside time, and I become the person that I always needed to help me process through, to help me look at the situation in a new light. So I actually have a dialogue in my head, and the dialogue goes something like this. Gee, you seem really upset. What's going on? Well, I'm scared. I'm scared that this is the way it's always going to be, and that I'm always going to not know what to do, and I'm always going to feel trapped. Oh, okay. Well, why does that, why do you feel that way? What's going on? Well, because when they yelled at me or when they talked to me, I didn't know what to do. And because I didn't know what to do, I didn't do anything. And so now I feel like I can't ever do anything when somebody gets upset, when somebody gets mad or frustrated or angry at me. I don't think there's anything I can do. I don't think there's any place I can go. Yeah, I can see how you'd feel that way. You know that's not true. You know that other people are reacting because they're in a bad space. But it doesn't mean that that you don't matter. It just means that they can't hear you right now. For whatever reasons, they can't hear you. And that's okay. I can hear you. I'm listening. Let's come up with a way that you can feel better. Let's come up with a way that you know you're not alone when this stuff happens, and help you realize that you have other choices, that it's not about you, and that you didn't do anything wrong. So when I have these conversations with myself, I'm coming in and filling that missing piece. I'm filling the missing piece of understanding what's really happening, because it's that misunderstanding, it's that confusion, it's that two beliefs rubbing up against each other and they don't make sense. That's what causes all of these feelings to come up. It's these old beliefs, these that we came up with, or somebody told us because they're narcissists, that it's all your fault and you're not any good, you're never going to find anybody anyways, and why don't you just change? Either a narcissist told us this, or our brains came up with it as a way to explain why we didn't have the love that we needed and that we wanted. Okay, so when you're a child of a narcissist, you need a lot of love. You have to remember that there's this part of you, there's this piece of you that never finished the process, that ended up traumatized because they never got that last piece, that piece of feeling as if they were, that it was going to be okay, a better understanding of what was happening to them, so that they don't end up trapped in that fight or flight or freeze, not knowing what to do, and then feeling so confused and hurt and angry and condensed and suppressed that it comes out, ending up acting like a narcissist because it overwhelms us. So to short circuit that, when you have a feeling come up, you need to give it a lot of love. And what that love is it looks like time, it looks like a willing ear, and it looks like wisdom that comes from your higher self. Wisdom that says, hey, let's look at the situation in a different way. Let's reframe it through a different lens, because you're not 5 anymore, or 7, or 10, or 12, or 3, or 1, or even in the womb. That's not all you are. So let's listen to it. Let's witness it. I'll be here with you, and let me help you guide you through this process so you don't have to feel so alone. Now, this process can take a little bit of time, because these wounds, you've spent decades living with this, and decades with all of this emotion, like this big sinkhole falling into this belief, and it takes time for that part of you to trust, to believe that you're not lying to it, that you're not going to betray it again. There's that whole trust issue, and it's not trust with other people, it's trust with yourself. It's trusting you. It's that part of you, that small part of you, trusting that someone will finally listen, and someone will finally give you the love, give them the love that they wanted, and help them understand what was happening in a healthy way. So when children have difficult experiences in their life, the things that are uncontrollable, that they happens unexpectedly, and that they don't have anybody to help them process it through, you can come in. And in fact, it's your time to come in. Now it's your time to come in and help them process through it, to help them know that there's a different way of looking at the world, a different way of being. And the voice in your head is the most powerful voice you've got. Because many times, remember, other people will say, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're wonderful. And you'll be like, no, I'm not. That's not true. What we need is the voice inside of ourselves, the voice in our head telling us something different. Now, sometimes I short-circuit that by putting headphones in and listening to music that tells me the things that I need to hear, because then it feels like and sounds like it's that voice inside of my head, you know, and it plugs in directly into my subconscious. It's a great way to do it. So if you're a child of a narcissist, or you have a child and you're parenting them with a narcissist, remember, they need an enormous amount of love. They need an enormous amount of someone saying, hey, I'm here for you. Your needs matter. We're going to listen to it, and let me help you look at it in a different way, in a way where you understand, in a way that you understand narcissists have a mental illness going on. They have their own trauma that they're dealing with, and that it's not your fault. We need to make sure that the children inside of us and the children around us have a guide to help them understand that whatever's happened is not their fault, and that they aren't a failure, and that they aren't broken. We have to let them know these things. It's super duper important to help them process through it, to hear their feelings and help them process through. And that's what heals the wounds. And when you heal those emotional wounds, you're less reactionary. When you're less reactionary, you're able to stay more rational. And when you're able to stay more rational, you're able to guide whatever experience that you have. You're able to set boundaries and make choices and say the right things and be intuitive and gather your resources around you. You're able to grow up. When you heal your wounds, you're able to take all those parts and pieces of your soul that have been cut off, and you're able to integrate them. And that's what launches you into that higher version of yourself. So you heal the wounds and you integrate all those little lost pieces, and you bring them together and you parent them so that they can be the wise, amazing, thoughtful, balanced person, an adult that you deserve to be, okay? Life gets a lot better when you do this work, so I suggest that you do. And that's your homework. I want you to give yourself some time today and talk to yourself. Look at what little people are running around inside of you. You know, look at the beliefs that are coming up and what those little people have to say. And when they say things like, I can't do this, this isn't fair, it's all my fault, why is this happening to me? Come in with a different perspective. Come in with that gentleness and that compassion and that understanding, and let them feel and let them express, and then give them the wisdom that you know that you have, and that you want to have, that you know is there. And start giving them different ways to understand the experiences which have been buried for so long, okay? Now, I help women in a couple ways. One, there's a book that I've collaborated with on narcissism. Two, there is a group coaching program. It's an 8-week group coaching program, and it's always ongoing. You can join at any time, and it's got a private Facebook group, and it's a wonderful group of women who are going through the same thing that you are, and that's a lovely experience. Or if you want to work with me privately, send me a message, because I do one-on-one coaching. We figure out a package. We figure out what things you're missing, what tools, what skills, how you can get them, so that you can evolve, so that you can break out of these chains of anxiety and anger and depression, and the chains of having a narcissist in your life too. And if you're lucky and your narcissist isn't diagnosably narcissist, you know, and it's somebody that matters to you, if there's hope, you know, if your spidey sense says that this is a mental health issues, but maybe we can move in a good direction, then the healthier you get, the more you'll impact the people around you. The more you'll be able to help them get what they need so that they can heal their wounds and they can become more rational and adult too. So it's a beautiful ripple effect. When you do your work, then it affects all the people that you love. So it's important for you to do your work first, because then you can show everybody else and help everybody else get there too. You aren't stuck, you aren't trapped, there's things around this, and basically that conflict inside of you is that little voice, that some little part of you that needs you to come in and listen to it and give it different information. Help it process through whatever happened, okay? So I think that's it for today. I hope you have a great day. I hope you stay cool. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.